Hey guys, so here's a quick instructional video to kind of talk about the workspace you guys are going to be assigned on Mathia called Deriving the Equation of a Circle. So it's a little bit of background notes just to kind of help you guys with that and get you guys going, okay? So if we look at the diagram over here at the circle, right, there's a couple things that are being labeled. So first things first is that we have our center point. Okay, we're going to be representing our center point as some numbers h comma k. So again, h and k are kind of just representing what those two numbers are in a sense. It could be 1 comma 2, it could be negative 4 comma 0. So h and k are kind of just going to be numbers here representing that center point as if it was on a coordinate grid, right? And then you see from the center to the outside of the circle where I put a point there, that point's just going to be represented as an x and y plain old coordinate, okay? And then we know the distance from the center to that outside point, that's going to be considered the radius of a circle, right? We have some background knowledge with what a radius of a circle is. It just goes from the center of the circle right to the outside, okay? And I kind of labeled these with different colors. You're going to see how they kind of pop up in the equation here. Okay, so essentially, our equation of a circle is actually kind of deriving from the Pythagorean theorem. So you guys see how I kind of formed a right triangle here, right? So from the radius being the hypotenuse, and then from the center of my circle over shifting in the right-hand direction in terms of how far over I have to get from my x-coordinate point, and then how far up I have to go to reach my y-coordinate point there, it forms a right triangle. Okay, so the formula that we end up getting, right, you guys see those squareds there? It's almost like a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared in a sense, where c is your hypotenuse. In this case, c, or your hypotenuse, is the radius, right? The x minus h and the y minus k, that's just showing the difference between your x and h value here going from left to right, and then the difference between your y and k value going up and down, okay? So once again, we know that hk is just representing our center of our circle, okay, and then r represents radius. Okay, so that's kind of just the basic form of an equation of a circle. Okay, so now we can actually take that equation talking about how we can solve different problems involving that. All right, so for this section here, it says write the equation of the circle below. So first things first, is always important to kind of recognize what the center is, what the radius is, and then we can kind of put those together to figure out the formula. So my h comma k, my center, that's just going to be whatever my center is labeled as. So in this case, it's 2 comma negative 1. And then my radius is labeled as being 3 in my diagram. Okay, so first things first, what you guys can always just start off by doing is just filling in your x and y, right? X, y. Now notice you're subtracting the h value and subtracting the k value. So whenever you're subtracting the number, right, if I'm subtracting 2, I'm just going to fill in a minus 2, right? It's minus my h value. In this case, my h value is a 2. And then for y, I'm subtracting a negative number. So this is where you guys need to be careful. If you're going to be subtracting a negative 1, we know when we subtract the negative, that actually becomes a plus. So it's going to be y plus 1, and that's equal to my radius squared. So make sure you're not just putting the radius, you're actually doing the radius squared. So if my radius is 3, it's going to be 3 squared, which we know is 9. Okay, so my final formula, or my equation of my circle here, would be x minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 9. Okay, now for your last section here, so again, this kind of mimics what you guys are going to be seeing on Mathia, okay? It says circle D has the equation x plus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared is equal to 36. It says circle F has the same center, but it has a circumference that is 4 times that of circle D. So we might want to kind of remind ourselves what circumference is, right? So circumference essentially is the perimeter of a circle. So if I had to have a circle here, whatever this outside distance is, that's representative of the circumference, okay? And our formula for circumference is just c is equal to pi, 3.14, times whatever the diameter is, okay? And that's going to come into play when we start answering some of these questions here, all right? So first things first, they're asking us, what is the radius of circle D? So circle D gave us this equation, and again, we know whatever number this is our radius squared value. So if I know my radius squared is equal to 36, that means my radius has to be whatever the square root of 36 is, which we know is 6, okay? So now it's saying, what is the circumference of circle D? Well, I know if my radius is 6, that means my diameter, right? So radius of 6 would look like this. That means the full length across my diameter, 6 plus 6, would give me 12. So if I want to find out the circumference, my circumference formula, again, is pi times the diameter, and my diameter here is 12. So if you guys have your calculators, right, I'm going to go and turn mine on, and let's see. You guys can use the pi buttons on your calculators or your phones. I'm just going to be using 3.14 for now, so I'm going to do 3.14 times 12, and that's going to give me about 37.68. So 37.68. Okay, that'll give me my circumference of circle D. Now it's asking for the circumference of circle F. Now if you guys go back and look in the directions, it says circle F has the same center, but has a circumference that is 4 times that of circle D. So if circle D circumference is 37.68, 4 times that means we just have to multiply by 4. And that's going to give us 150.72. Okay? Now here's the tricky part. I say, okay, we now know the circumference of circle F. Let's work backwards and now find the radius of circle F. So again, to figure that out, if I know the circumference of circle F was 150.72, and that's representative of pi, or 3.14, times the diameter, I'm trying to figure out 3.14 times what gives me that 150.72. So if you guys actually want to set it up as an equation, right, I'd say, okay, well, the circumference is represented as 3.14 times the diameter, and we know that's equal to 150.72. We can go ahead and solve for the diameter by dividing both sides by 3.14. So divide out that coefficient of 3.14. So if I do 150.72 divided by 3.14, that's going to give me 48. So my diameter is 48, but they're asking for the radius. Well, that's easy. If I know my full diameter going across is 48, the radius is just half of that. So half of 48 means the radius of circle F is 24. Okay? Now putting it all together, it's asking for the equation of circle F, right? So if, again, go back and read your directions, circle F has the same center. So that means this piece of my equation, right, which represents the center, HK, that's going to stay exactly the same for circle F. So I'm going to have x plus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared. The only thing that's going to be changing in this equation is the radius, right? So if I know my radius is 24, this has to be 24 squared, right? It's r squared in my formula. So if I go ahead and do 24 times 24, I get 576.